a storming blanket!
What's going on, everyone? So welcome to my latest video. This is of course part of a series where I focus on a specific director and rank that director's work from worst to best. I've done such directors in the past such as David Lynch, David Fincher, Wes Anderson, Paul Thomas Anderson, the list goes on. You've clicked on this video so you know it. This time I'm focusing on Brad Bird's films, ranking them from worst to best. Now, this is also something you need to know. I don't rank in terms of a director. I don't count TV shows, short films, music videos, commercials, none of that. Specifically just the films that they've done. In the case of Brad Bird has done 6 films as of right now, the filming of this video. So I'm going to be ranking that from 6 being his worst to 1 being his best, and of course my opinion. Now I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts obviously on Brad Bird's films, so you guys can rank them down below. But anyways, enough exposition, guys. Let's kick things off with my number 6, which is Tomorrowland. Easily the worst of the bunch. I don't like Tomorrowland. I think it is a movie that's a fine example of a tonally inconsistent, poorly paced movie. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. That's my thoughts on Tomorrowland. It's got George Clooney, though. But besides that, nah, I don't like this movie. That's why it's my number 6. Next up, my number 5 is Incredibles 2. I guess they dropped the but Incredibles 2 it's okay. I gave it like a 3.5 out of 5 when I first saw it, but you know, in retrospect, I'd probably give it like a 3. It's pretty forgettable. You know, I don't know. I know some people that really dig it, but I don't know. Like when I think of Incredibles 2, I just think of just not really adding much to the lore of the Incredibles. Just a bland storyline that on the surface could be interesting, but after watching it, I don't know. I just don't see it aging the same way that the first one did, which is why it's my number 5. But again, I understand why some people love this movie. It's just for me personally, it's okay. So that's why it's my number 5. Next up, my number 4 is The Iron Giant. Man, this is a good movie. This was actually the last movie that I saw at my my old house when I was like 8 years old. This is a very enjoyable movie. And not only is it an enjoyable movie, but it's a movie that has very interesting messages, as well as, truth be told, caters to both adults and, you know, kids. And that's something that the best animated movies, or just kid movies in general, in my opinion, are movies that blend the two seamlessly. They blend the two audiences in a way that both can enjoy it and both have it where it doesn't get old. So that way when the kids decide to rewatch the movie, the adults aren't like, oh, I don't want to watch this again. It's like, no, they probably want to watch it again too. And The Iron Giant's a great example of that. A great example of how some people are like, oh, animated films are for kids. And it's like, well, but it's not, because adults can enjoy The Iron Giant too. And that is honestly the best kind of animated films, the ones that understand that logic. But yeah, that's my number 4. Next up, my number 3 is the movie that brought the franchise back to life. And my number 3 is Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol. That's right. This is when things started getting good. Yes, if you saw my J.J. Abrams ranking list, I did say I enjoyed Mission Impossible 3, and I do stand by that despite having criticisms with that movie. But this is when things got real. You had a director that predominantly did animated films tackle the action genre. And for myself and others, as a 15-year-old when this came out, I was like, why do they get an animated director to do this? And then after watching it, I was like, oh, that's why. It's got good action. It's a seamless movie in terms of action scenes. It's very clean in terms of the way it's shot and everything. It's a movie that honestly is not the best. I do think that Mission Impossible 6 is the best. But it, again, is the movie that I look at is when things started getting good in terms of Mission Impossible series. And honestly, what fourth franchise in a franchise is good, like this good? So Brad Bird did a good job directing this movie. It's competently made, it's entertaining, and I mean, that's all you can really ask for with the 4th entry, and it gets the job done. So yeah, that's my number 3. Next up, my number 2, which is Ratatouille. I really dig this movie, man. This was a movie that I saw for the first time when I went to Disney World. I believe it was November of 2007, and I've seen it many times since. I think the last time I saw it was like 3-4 years ago, and I like this movie. I like it a lot. I think it's a movie that really speaks to the heart about, you know, how anyone can do something, but you got to really put your mind to it. But more importantly, not just that message, but also saying about how there's a lot of untapped talent that people have, and a lot of times aren't really willing to give it the time, or they have to do other things with their life in terms of like making ends meet, so they're not really able to serve that potency. And I think that's something that the movie does a really good job of tapping into, about how, yes, people are sometimes not knowing of situations that they're actually really good at in the terms of the main character cooking, which is something that I think is interesting. Again, Ratatouille, it's not the best Pixar film, but it is definitely up there for me. And Brad Bird does a great job. It's got great writing, great score. And yeah, I like this movie, and that's why it's my number 2. Next up, my number 1. It's a Pixar film that's better, and you probably already guessed it, probably even before clicking this video. My number 1 is The Incredibles. That's right. The Incredibles was honestly, I believe, my first PG movie that I saw. And it makes me feel old saying this because, it's 17 years ago when I saw this movie, which is crazy to think about. But, yeah, The Incredibles is great. It's, as a lot of people say, it's the best Fantastic Four movie that, we have. It's a movie that manages to take the lore of Watchmen and make it into family entertainment, which I always found interesting because I hadn't even heard of Watchmen, obviously, when this came out. But after I saw Watchmen, I was like, that was similar to The Incredibles. But then I was like, oh yeah, The Incredibles was a comic book series that came way before The Incredibles. But even with that being said, with the obvious homage to Watchmen, it's a very quick-moving, engaging, thought-provoking, I dare even say, movie that ends with a cliffhanger that, although it's a cliffhanger that, in my eyes, wasn't totally fulfilled in the second one, it's still a movie that holds up on its own. And honestly, for a movie that is geared towards, the family, it's great to be able to say, as someone that's not the target audience anymore, that I really dig this movie. And honestly, it's a movie I look forward to showing my kids. But yeah, that's my number 1. So with these ranking lists, I always try to talk about the director afterwards. Brad Bird is a director that, honestly, I don't think he's great. I think he is competent. He gets the job done. He knows how to make entertaining, fast-paced movies, and they're stylish too. Although that style isn't overwhelming. It's not like certain directors like Tarantino or Wes Anderson where you see their style. Brad Bird is more of a director where his style is very subtle, I feel like. And I feel like it's why it's not really overpowering to me because, don't get me wrong, I enjoy most of his movies, but he's a director that I don't think of when I say like, oh, best directors ever. But he's a director that I still admire. And again, just like a lot of these other directors, if he has a movie come out, I'll definitely watch it. And I'm curious to see what next movie he'll be doing and to see if it's going to be live action or an animated movie. But it's great to be able to see a filmmaker that has, honestly, talent in both, which is really hard. One or the other is hard. So to have it at both, that's pretty incredible. So, but yeah, guys, Brad Bird, those are his 6 films ranked worst to best by yours truly. I'm curious to hear your guys' ranking list down below. And who do you guys want me to rank next? I've gotten some other recommendations. Some I'm definitely going to try to do or I'm currently working on. But definitely curious to hear your guys' thoughts. And as always, don't forget the subscription, notification bell, and I'll catch you guys later.